Hello, welcome to Jibrin Angle on Oweleke TV. My name is Jibrin, and this is my angle. Today we shall be talking about matters arising from the seizure of Nigeria's presidential jet in France. In our last edition of this show, we actually talked about the political angle, ramification of that. Today, we are going, I think now that we have the detail of all the legal nitty-gritty of that arbitration case. We want to visit it and deal with it legally. And we couldn't have had a better legal mind as Barrister Austin Manta to discuss this, who is a very senior lawyer of over 4 decades of experience. So, and someone I respect his legal knowledge and interpretation of the laws so much. He's very, when it comes to the interpretation of the law, I consider him as a conservative lawyer. So, Barrister, thank you once again. It was an impromptu invitation to actually feature on this program, and as always, you have done us another honor. Thank you for actually creating a time to be on this show once again.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure to be here.
All right, let's get it on. This issue of the trade zone in Ogun State. Initially, I don't know if you have gotten the message right now, because initially I remember on our last edition, we actually alluded to the fact that it was all about corruption and probably selling out Nigeria to China, But after going down into details of the issue, I think it has to do with first corruption, and it also has to do with fellow Chinese company fighting each other, Chinese companies fighting each other actually. So I want us to go into the arbitration now. Now what actually aroused my my vexation or my anger was when I read the report about the former governor Ibukunle Amosun, who admittedly said that he was duped or whatever. I'm paraphrasing now. That he was duped, he was deceived or whatever. So he regretted, he made a mistake. I think that's his word, that he made a mistake to have signed that deal. And I asked myself, what the heck was that? An executive governor of a state made such mistake. This is a state, for God's sake. Even a mere company, before you take such kind of important decision, a life-changing decision, there are processes. It has to go through a lot of processes and through scrutinies, through different tables or whatever, and bring in experts, especially lawyers as well. So I, I want you please to just give us a rundown of all the legal stuff, how it started, and how we got into arbitration. Then we'll take it off from there.
Thank you very much. Just like I started explaining in our last on Jibrin Angle, the last episode.
Yes.
Nigeria had signed a free trade zone agreement with China back in 2001. On the basis of that, many states embarked on creating free trade zones. By the way, the free trade zone is meant to encourage trade and investment. And the zone takes away the problems of customs and tariffs, in the sense that if you are importing or manufacturing within the zone or importing to re-export, you avoid the custom tariffs, custom charges, and other things. That's what happens in the free trade zone. So it is meant to encourage business. It's meant to encourage investment from foreign investment in the economy. So Nigeria signed this bilateral agreement with China back in 2001. Some states embark on creating their free trade zones. I know there's one in Lekki. There's a Lekki free trade zone, which is there. Ogun State itself started their own in 2006 under Benga, the former governor, Benga Daniel. So he entered into a trade zone agreement called Guangdong. It was to be Guangdong Trade Zone Agreement with China. And the land was given to them. A certificate of occupancy was given to them for about 99 years, during which the Chinese company was expected to bring in massive investment to create the infrastructure that we set up the trade zone, the free trade zone. Now, as is typical of Nigeria and our politicians, an incoming administration of Bikunle Amosun sought to...
Now, sorry, before you go step into that, this free trade zone is supposed to be a zone. So I need you to enlighten those people who may be confused about this zone of a thing. So, but because it's while it is a zone, it's also a company, an organization, not just a piece of land, right?
Yeah, it is both a piece of land and a company managing an infrastructure. Let's take it like an industry. You have an industry which is on a piece of land managed by a company or management. Okay. So the free trade zone is something like that. It's akin to a seaport, but without the sea. So you take the port from where the sea is and bring it inland and create an area, a large area where infrastructure will be put in place for manufacturing, for importing, and re-exporting. So within that territory, which is now called a zone, the tariffs, the trade and business there is tariff-free, is custom duty-free, and all the hazards and problems that are associated with custom challenges at the seaports, normal ports, are excluded. This is meant to facilitate the investment and trade within that area. That is what is called a free trade zone.
Okay, thank you.
It's actually a physical area on the ground developed with infrastructure, but managed by a company. So that is the situation in which Ogun State got into this free trade zone agreement with a Chinese company back in 2007. Okay. So when the another governor of Ogun State in the form of the name of Bikunle Amosun came, as is typical of Nigerian politicians, he sought to review the agreement. His own story now is that he was misled. But I'm in Nigeria, I know how these people operate. As soon as they come, and don't forget, they were from opposing parties. Benga Daniel was from the PDP, while Bikunle Amosun was from an opposing party. So he took over from what he considered not to be his own party. So he had to look at what had happened before. And in doing that, he opened the way. I do not believe that he was misled. He opened the way because when the politicians come to power in Nigeria, everybody wants to bring his own thing. They want to jettison what the former government has done in total, or bring everything, put it aside, and bring their own people. This is a business. It has been done by the former governor. A new governor came. He will say, okay, let me bring my own people. It was in that context that another Chinese company came. He is claiming that it is this Chinese company that deceived him. But you have to read between the lines who brought this new Chinese company. I can bet you he is the one, or his people are the one that brought this Chinese company to take over, because the former one was done by the previous government. He wants to bring in his own people. So they came, and according to him, they started bad mouthing the former Chinese company, telling him so many things. Now, if you are the governor and you see two Chinese companies, one is telling you this one is not competent, this one is this one is that, are you not going to look deeply into that situation and satisfy yourself that truly this company is not competent? And there are several ways of deciding whether it's competent or not. You look at the pedigree, you look at the history, you look at what these people have done, if they have done similar business before. These are the parameters you use. But he quickly allowed this new company to come in to manage the free trade zone. That is where the problem came. Now, along the way, there was also a problem with this new Chinese company. Now, bear in mind, as I said before, you are supposed to bring in massive investment in that trade zone by infrastructure. It's akin to a port. So you are thinking of building something like a port on land where goods can be received. So it's a massive enterprise. So we ask ourselves, what did the first company do on ground? And what did this second Chinese company do on ground? As of today, Ogun State is saying that the only activity on the land is a fence, a perimeter fence that has been constructed. That is what they're saying is the only structure on ground in terms of investment. So when this project was stopped, there was arbitration back in 2016. And the arbitration was between the Chinese company, new Chinese company, and Ogun State and the federal government. So the arbitration went against the federal government and Ogun State.
Now, sorry, I hope you don't forget your point. Before you go into that I was going to ask, what role now? Why I don't know constitutionally or legally when they are signing all these important deals, because this with what has happened right now, the result of it actually has brought to light the effect of what these states individually does outside without the federal government. I know loans, you can't, the federal government has to approve a foreign loan for a state before the loan can be actually secured. I understand that, but what about this issue of signing away portion of our commonwealth by the states? Does the federal government, by the law, does the law require the federal government to be involved in this kind of deal between the states and foreign organizations? I think Barrister's voice has frozen. Yeah, okay. Barrister is back. Sorry for that network issue. Now, my question is this: what is the role of the federal government in signing this such a deal. Now we understand when it comes to financial loans, but external loans that state governments acquire or secures from the international community, they have to get some kind of approval from the federal government for the loan to be successfully secured. But I don't know what is the role of government in cases like this, where state governments are actually signing away our commonwealth in the name of business. So does federal government, by the law, is federal government supposed to be to approve this before it sails through? Or in this case, when it comes to business, is the state autonomous or independent of the federal government?
Like you rightly said, when the states are assessing foreign loans, they must be guaranteed by the federal government and also approved by the federal government. Likewise, all international businesses, companies, whether Western or Chinese or Eastern, they realize that if you are dealing with a federating unit in a country, it is safer to tie the federal unit to that federating unit. So in all major foreign contracts, they always seek to tie the federal government, even if it is with the state. It is primarily a question of the agreement that was entered. And because the free trade zone agreement was reached between the federal government and the Chinese government, under which states can now create their free trade zones, the federal government is the guarantor of any such contract between the state and that foreign entity. That is how the federal government came into this.
Okay, please go ahead with your point.
Yes. So we see the situation where an arbitration had been entered into in 2016. And remember, arbitration is by consensus. Both parties in the agreement will first indicate that in the case of dispute, this is the procedure for arbitration. And it has come to be recognized and accepted that international arbitrations are always done by the Arbitration Council of UK or Paris. That is, those are the standard arbitration for international businesses. And the reason is that the Chinese company, the American company, the British company, they prefer that arbitration in the UK to any arbitration in Nigeria, because we have arbitration law in Nigeria where judges of the highest order, people of the highest order, can constitute the arbitration panel. But these people will not trust our arbitration. But we are ever ready, and we always trust their own arbitration, knowing or ignoring the fact that it will always be skewed against us. We don't take that into consideration. That is where anytime you are negotiating an international agreement in Nigeria, our negotiators and legal experts that are part of that negotiation should strike a balance on that, because I personally will not trust an arbitration carried out in UK by a UK or US or even Chinese company. So we have that, we give ourselves to them, and then they mess us up really bad. So we don't have anything. If you look back to the issue of Nigeria and Cameroon boundary, the Bakassi Peninsula, that is the same thing that caused us problem, caused Nigeria to lose territory to China. We were not under any compulsion to submit to the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice, but we willingly agreed to that. It was during the Abacha regime. They agreed to adjudication by the International Court of Justice, which they should not have agreed because, one, Nigeria is more powerful than Cameroon. Two, Nigeria was in physical occupation of that portion that was disputed. So in any way, there is no way Cameroon could have physically taken over that place. But we submitted ourselves to the arbitration of the International Court of Justice. And what happened? The whole Western world lined up behind Cameroon. And the judgment went against Nigeria. In spite of obvious facts and maps, in spite of ethnic affiliation of the inhabitants of those of Bakassi to Nigeria, the court ruled that Cameroon should be given the territory. And then you now come and say we should not give. Who will now back you at that point? After the court, which you voluntarily submitted to, has given judgment, you don't have any way to back out again. That is where we were pushed to the wall. The same thing happens in all these international agreements that Nigeria entered into. Number one, most of them are not well vetted by highly qualified and patriotic legal experts. Remember, we're in Nigeria, we talk of corruption. If I'm the legal advisor to the government of Osun State, and a Chinese company is negotiating that, it's possible I can see some clauses will be favorable to the Chinese company. But if the Chinese company should approach me and say to me, in the context of Nigeria, I will pass it along. I will give it to her. I'll say it's okay. So that is where we have problem in Nigeria. Even not just the state, even at the federal level. Even at the federal level, the same thing happens. You remember PIG? It was done, it was vetted and approved. But look at when the clauses were brought up, they were manifestly against Nigeria. So these are the issues that we have. So Osun State went to arbitration. The federal government participated in the arbitration, and the arbitration went against them, and an arbitral award was given. Now, an arbitration award is equivalent to a judgment. All you need to do is to take it to the court to
ratify
and enforce it. So what the Chinese company is doing now is going around jurisdictions outside the country to see where they can enforce, where assets of Nigerian are, so that they can enforce arbitration that is now $70-something million.
What?
So you see, from building a perimeter fence that will not even be up to $1 million, we are now going to lose a huge sum of money, 70-some, and as time continues to go, interest on that amount is building. So that is where we are. And they try to enforce this arbitration in several states. Currently, the U.S. Court of Appeals, a district court in U.S. had granted them leave to enforce it. Then Nigeria appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals. Judgment was given last week by the Court of Appeals declining to accept Nigeria's claim of sovereign immunity over the three assets on sovereign assets. Nigeria is now contemplating appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court. But why put ourselves in this position in the first place? A decent, patriotic, and clean agreement will avoid this. Commercial agreements are not forced on somebody. We should be aware that you are dealing with a more powerful and more prosperous country that can use its power, can use its money, economic might against you. So you should be careful to insert appropriate clauses in the agreement that will protect not just the assets, but the sovereignty and integrity of the country. That is what is missing. So we are now exposed to that. The French court has attached those 3 jets. One of them is the new presidential jet that Tinubu bought for 150 billion. It was being configured as a presidential jet when it was attached. Mercifully, the company has agreed for the release of that jet, that one, not the other two, so that Tinubu can use it to participate in a meeting with the French president. But it's shameful. Are we now at the mercy of a Chinese company, not even the Chinese government?
Government, honestly, company, for God's
sake. A Chinese company, which from records, was formed a few months before the contract. It had no pedigree. It was formed a few months before they got this job. So you see the extent to which our people, even though I will not have facts, I can bet that some corrupt things went into it. I can bet that corruption underlined the whole of this. Somebody went and brought that company to take over this contract for his benefits. That is what I can summarize.
You see, I don't know. I don't know. As a lawyer, do you think now, like you earlier noted, of course, so many people were involved, especially lawyers, who actually convinced, I don't know if I'll say convinced the governor, the then governor, or probably the then governor actually was instrumental to the foundation of this corruption. Only God knows. But you see, the problem is, I don't know. I think this thing happens in so many, including the US, where you see people in government actually taking wrong steps, acting in wrong ways that are actually detrimental to the interests of either the country or the citizens of the country, that will affect them in one negative way or the other. Yet these people, there are laws that actually protect them from being prosecuted, from being held accountable for their actions. Do we, I don't know, is it the same thing we have in Nigeria? Do we have any law that can actually hold, like, people who were actually instrumental to this deal, all right, from the lowest to the up to the chain? I don't know. Do we have a system, a legal system, that can actually hold someone liable or accountable for such actions? Because I don't get it. Look at the disgrace, the global disgrace and shame it has cost us. So you mean obviously federal government or state government will be compelled to pay that money because that's the cost judgment, except they want to appeal it. Is everyone going from the Ibukule himself, who was the ex-governor? He does not have immunity now. Can't he be prosecuted for that? What about the lawyers who were instrumental to these agreements, to this legal process? What about the people who brought this company? No one, is there no one that can be held accountable for such kind of corruption?
Well, it's a serious issue, technically speaking. You cannot hold a governor or a public official for a decision that he took in good faith on behalf of the state. But if you are able to prove that there were some personal considerations in terms of bribery and other corrupt acts that underline that contract, then it can be prosecuted. Other than that, you will not have any grounds to prosecute the president or the governor that tried to do something which he genuinely believed to be in the interest of the the Federation of Nigeria or of a state. That is the distinction. Because if not, if you are going to prosecute a public official for wrong acts, not criminal acts, then nobody is going to do anything. Everybody will be afraid to act.
Now,
but if
but hold on. Yeah, now, okay. Now, sorry to cut you short. Now, what makes this not criminal, for God's sake? I don't see why. I understand you are saying it as a lawyer, of course. I understand that. But what else could this be? I don't expect, I expect the law to actually define this as criminal. This shouldn't be a civil stuff, even though it's a business thing that has to that went through arbitration, went through the courts or whatever. But the truth is, the repercussion, the end result of such action is detrimental to not just to Nigerian interests, it's detrimental to Nigerians as well. It is a rip-off to us, a sort of. So I don't get it why the law will not criminalize such acts. That is, if there is an evidence, if someone can actually prove that this thing was done in bad faith, why can't it be a criminal? Sorry, why can't it be a crime, rather?
It's going to be difficult to determine the criminality or criminal aspects of it. Remember, we are talking about a civil commercial transaction.
Yes.
Written and signed by grown-up, by adults. Whenever an adult of full age enters into an agreement, he is bound by it, except he shows that he entered into it by force or duress. Otherwise, the agreement becomes enforceable. And in every commercial agreement, like you know, if you terminate it wrongly,
I didn't hear. I think we had a network issue. Your line froze. I didn't hear much.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, I said we should.
The line has frozen again. All right, Barrister. Sorry. Thank you for coming back. Sorry, viewers. Honestly, we are having some network issues from the barrister's end. Okay, let's go back, Barrister. Let's go back to what we are talking about. You were actually, I asked you about the implication of this when it comes to people, the perpetrators, people who were involved in perpetrating such corrupt acts, sort of. So, and you were trying to give me a response to that. Can you please continue if you still remember what the point you were trying to make?
Yes, what I was saying is that we are dealing with a civil commercial agreement entered into between adults of consenting minds. So whenever two adults enter into a contract freely, they are bound by the terms of the contract. So when you wrongly terminate a contract, the other party is entitled to damages. And now the measure of damages is another issue altogether. But the mere termination of a contract freely entered into gives the other party the right to ask for damages. And where he has already invested money and suffered other issues, definitely the court will. In terms of arbitration, damages are awarded even for prospective profits and business.
Sorry, Barrister, I think you have this network issue that without the break we had in this in transmission, I think maybe you probably forgot the point. My question, I think if I'm not finished answering it, but maybe we'll have to move away from that. My question was the people who were involved, including the governor, the lawyers, the governor's aides, the people who introduced the business or whatever. Now, this business have gone, it's obvious that there is corruption to it. So my point is, my question then was, what happens? Is there no law that can actually be used to prosecute everyone that is involved here? A sort of, you went on to say that if one can prove it, if you can prove that there was a bad intention, there was a selfish intent to actually defraud the state or the country, then such people talk, but it is difficult. That's what you were saying. Can you see? Did I refresh your memory? Can you take it off from
Yeah, that is what I was saying. I was trying to emphasize that it's a difficult thing to try to prosecute the principal actors of a commercial transaction, except you show some aspects of criminality. It is being done even in Nigeria. If you remember the Mambila hydroelectric project, that we have the same problem with Chinese companies. The minister who was in charge at that time, I think Agunloye, is being prosecuted. But the issue is, one, he did not have authority. You can now look at that and say you did not have authority to do this. So for that, you can now see the angle where you can get somebody and prosecute. But if he had authority, if he did what he had authority to do, it's difficult to get criminal issues to prosecute him. But where you can get some criminal elements, it is prosecutable.
I think, again, excuse me, this is one thing. I don't know. This is one thing. And another, I don't know what you call it. You call it lacuna. This is another loophole that we have in governance. A deliberate loophole. A loophole that is deliberate, or that was deliberately created by the political elites, the political class, to protect themselves. And the worst part is that this is not only in Nigeria, it's also the same thing applies to other civilized climes like the US. Honestly, it is so sad and bad that people will be saddled with the responsibility to serve. They are supposed to be servants, and they are supposed to be accountable. My problem is, why do we have to operate systems or a system that does not hold public officials excuse me, accountable when they leave office? That is my point. It's honestly, this is something I have lamented on over the years. It is so sad that at the end of the day, you see, this is one of the reasons why I abhor this so-called system they call democracy. Honestly, because I'd rather we have a military system, military government, than this crazy thing. A military government that can, at least if you have good person on top, they can hold some people responsible directly, because it's a military government, it's a dictatorship. So, but this issue of we spend money to elect people, and the people we elected, we appoint corrupt officials around them that will eventually corrupt them if they were not corrupt. So at the end of the day, it's just the same cycle. It becomes a circular thing, for God's sake, that every year we face the same issue. People just come in to amass wealth and commandeer public properties, public or common wealth to their private estates. This is, honestly, it is so sad, extremely sad, honestly. I think let's move away. Let's move away a little bit from there. I don't know if you have read about the controversy, what really happened, because this matter, what we're talking about, the Chinese embassy in Nigeria, the Chinese government, through its embassy in Nigeria, actually, the consulate intervened in this matter at a point, and actually told the state government then that this the other I can't remember the names now. That they stated the company that was supposed to be the rightful owner or rightful manager of that business. Are you aware? Did you get those details? Because this is between the fight. I don't know why. My own problem is, why is the arbitration between the this Zhongchen, I can't remember that Chinese company. There are two Chinese companies now. The first one took over. This first one was given the contract. The other one came in when Osun came in to review, just like you mentioned, reviewed it and gave it to someone else. without investigating the truth of the matter. And so my point is, why do we have one, but there are two Chinese companies here that are involved in this? So why is it that we have only one, between the federal government and the state in court? Why? What is going on with the third party, the second company that was issued this contract, issued the zone in the first instance?
As far as I know, from the facts that are available to me, it is the second company that has got the award in its favor. The first company, Zhongdong, this Chinese name, Zhongdong,
yes,
was the initial company that had the agreement with Ogun State. Oweleke and Osun cancelled that one and brought in this Zhongdong Function Industrial Investment. That is the company that currently has arbitration award in their favor against the Ogun State government and the federal government. The first party appeared not to have taken action on their own issue when they were terminated. Apparently, maybe they did not do anything at that point. It is the second company that is in issue today with the state government and the federal government. The intervention of the Chinese embassy and consulate has always been to goad the parties, to goad the state government into settling with the Chinese company. That has been their focus. The company itself has repeatedly said they want to sit down with the Ogun State and settle. But if you know these settlements, it is this, whether by arbitration or not, whether by arbitral award or by settlement, they are going to get a humongous amount of money. That is what Ogun State is running away. Even if they sit together and say, let us discuss among ourselves and settle, the Chinese company is going to go away with a huge amount of money. That's what Ogun State is trying to avoid by all means. Even as they have attached these planes now, the Chinese company has said their release of this presidential jet is a good gesture to encourage the Ogun State and federal government to come to let them negotiate an amicable resolution of the issue. Either they come back to the zone or they give them damages for it.
You see, my problem again comes to public servants. Now, the Attorney General of the Federation, this is one of his core mandates as the Attorney General of the Federation. When a government wants to do anything that has to do with legal jurisprudence, it behooves the Attorney General. It is his mandate. It is his responsibility. He is under obligation to guide the federal government on whatever the federal government wants to indulge in or want to get involved with. So I don't get it. What the hell happened? Why did I don't like you mentioned this issue of we've had this experience in the past regarding the Bakassi stuff. We felt everybody, in fact, that was a blow to Nigerians. I remember during Obasanjo time. Now we are having the same issue. What is the problem? Why are we selling out? I don't get it. Why are we? Because decisions like this are not just made by one person. It's a government, for God's sake. There is what we call chain of command. It passes through different whatever before the final approval comes out. My point is, why are we allowing the international community to actually eat us for lunch by using, at least compelling them to use our own? Because when it comes to negotiation, everybody there should be a balance. If you are coming to Nigeria to invest or to do anything in Nigeria or whatever, that means we have something you want, you desire. We have something you need, you do not even want. you will have something you need. That means it's a give and take thing. At that juncture, I expect for us to, because if someone comes to you over a need, I believe you as the only person who has what it takes to solve the need of the other, you are at advantage. So if you're at advantage level, I expect Nigeria, okay, Nigeria then, in this case, Nigeria at the advantage level, we have the
to enter into.
All right. Sorry, I think I have to end this show here because my guest, Barrister Austin Manta, is really having a network issue. So sorry, I actually wanted, there were some other things we needed to discuss with him on this subject matter, but it seems the network is not cooperating. So at this juncture, I think I'm bringing to an end this show abruptly. Once again, my name is Jibrin, and this is Jibrin Angle coming to you on Oweleke TV. Yeah, if you have not subscribed to this platform before, please do, and set on your notification bells, like our contents, and send your comments, and they will always respond to comments that requires a response, actually. No matter how harsh it may be, will always respond. That's just it. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for keeping in touch with us. Remain blessed. Bye.